Hello friends, in this video we are going to discover the top 10 cheapest countries to live in Europe 2024. The US is experiencing a mass exodus, thanks to rising living costs, inflation, and political instability. Combine those factors with a strong dollar, and it explains why many Americans are crossing the Atlantic in search of a more affordable lifestyle, particularly in some of the cheapest countries in Europe. What's more, the rise of remote work has made such moves a lot easier. There are many factors to consider when deciding to emigrate, but ultimately it comes down to what's best for you and your family. Cheaper countries in Europe have plenty to offer, and expats often find they can stretch their budget further than expected. So, if you're looking for a cheap place to live in Europe, look no further. I've rounded up the 10 cheapest countries in Europe, based on the latest cost of living data from numbeo.com. All of these countries are EU members, so you would have the chance to acquire second citizenship by naturalization. Having an EU passport would give you the right to live, work, study, and retire freely across 30 countries, the ultimate plan B. Kindly make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon before we start this video about the 10 cheapest countries to live in Europe 2024. Now let's dig deeper into each of the top 10 cheapest countries to live in Europe 2024. Number 10. Portugal. Currency, Euro. Beautiful Portugal has become one of Europe's top destinations for emigrating Americans, especially retirees and remote workers. Portugal is also one of the most affordable countries in Western Europe, with some of the easiest and most flexible residency visas, such as the D7 Passive Income Visa and the Golden Visa. Rent prices in much of Portugal are affordable compared to the US, although prices in Lisbon are rising rapidly. Food and transportation costs are relatively low as well, making Portugal an attractive option for remote workers on a budget. However, it's important to note that the cost of living can vary depending on the city you're in. The capital, Lisbon, is one of the most expensive cities in Portugal. And the popular Algarve region has Portugal's fastest increasing real estate prices. Funchal, the popular capital of Madeira, is also experiencing price increases for rent and real estate purchase. To save even more money, you may want to consider living in a smaller town. Popular choices for expats include Tavera, Coimbra, Braga, or Ericeira. If you want a cosmopolitan experience that's more affordable than Lisbon, Portugal's second city Porto could be a good choice. Portugal is a great place to live and work remotely. Although prices are rising, with proper research, you won't have to break the bank to do it. Average monthly rent in Lisbon city center, $1,391.48. Average real estate price, per square foot $491.26. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $45.47. Number 9. Czech Republic. Currency, CZK. The cost of living in Czech Republic is quite reasonable, especially when compared to the US and many Western European countries. The average monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Prague is around $800, and you can easily find a meal for two at a decent restaurant for less than $40. However, the cost of living does vary depending on which city you choose to live in. Prague is by far the most expensive city in the country, with prices for basic necessities like food and transportation being significantly higher than in the smaller cities. Prague also offers the most opportunities for remote workers, with a large number of co-working spaces and English-speaking businesses. So, it really depends on your individual needs as to whether Prague or one of the smaller cities would be a better fit. Average monthly rent in Prague city center, $849.93. Average real estate price, per square foot $704.25. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $37.49. Number 8. Croatia. Currency, Euro. Despite its recent move to adopt the euro, the cost of living in Croatia is still relatively low, making it an attractive destination for remote workers and expats who want to make their dollar stretch further. In terms of accommodation, utilities, and food, Croatia is significantly cheaper than many European countries. For example, you can rent a one-bedroom apartment in Zagreb, the capital, for as little as $500 per month. And while restaurants are relatively inexpensive, most Croatians prefer to cook at home, using fresh produce from the local market. With its low cost of living and stunning scenery, it's no wonder that Croatia is becoming an increasingly popular destination for digital nomads, expats, and retirees. As well as Zagreb, you should also check out coastal towns such as Zadar, Dubrovnik, and Split. Average monthly rent in Zagreb city center, $522.43. Average real estate price, per square foot $334.92. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $40.82. Number 7. Slovakia. Currency, Euro. Slovakia is quickly becoming a popular destination for remote workers, and it's not hard to see why. The cost of living is relatively low, especially when compared to other European countries. In fact, Slovakia is often cited as one of the cheapest countries in Europe. And while the cost of living in the capital city of Bratislava is slightly higher than in other parts of the country, it's still possible to live comfortably on a US or UK salary. Of course, there are some downsides to living in Slovakia as a remote worker. The winters can be long and harsh, and the internet connectivity isn't always reliable. But overall, the pros outweigh the cons, making Slovakia an increasingly attractive option for digital nomads. Average monthly rent in Bratislava city center, $645.61. Average real estate price, per square foot $445.17. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $40.89. Number 6. Lithuania. Currency, Euro. Lithuania is often touted as one of the cheapest countries in Europe, and for good reason. Expenses like food, transportation, and utilities are relatively low, and rental prices are reasonable. That said, there are a few potential downsides to living in Lithuania as a remote worker on a US or UK salary. English is not as widely spoken in Lithuania as in some other European countries, which can make everyday tasks like grocery shopping or going to the bank more challenging, but on the bright side, you're likely to learn Lithuanian faster. What's more, if your goal is EU citizenship, Lithuania isn't the easiest or fastest place to get it. It also doesn't recognize dual citizenship. Overall, Lithuania can be an interesting option for remote workers on a tight budget, but it's important to be aware of the potential drawbacks. Average monthly rent in Vilnius city center, $710.60. Average real estate price, per square foot $354.77. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $51.11. Number 5. Latvia. Currency, Euro. If you're looking for a European country where your remote work salary will go further, Latvia is a great option. It's one of the cheapest countries in Europe, and you can easily find affordable accommodation and meals. The cost of living in Latvia is significantly lower than in other Western European countries, so you'll be able to save up quite a bit of money. Of course, there are downsides to living in Latvia as well. The weather can be quite unpredictable, and winters can be brutally cold. What's more, it gets dark very early in winter, and stays light very late during summer. This can be difficult for sleeping. Overall, though, the pros of living in Latvia, affordability and opportunities for freelance work, outweigh the cons, unpredictable weather and low salaries. If you're looking for an affordable place to live and work remotely, Latvia is worth considering. Average monthly rent in Riga city center, $470.90. Average real estate price, per square foot $231.36. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $51.11. Number 4. Poland. Currency, PLN. According to Numbeo, the cost of living in Warsaw is nearly 30% cheaper than in London, and around 20% cheaper than in New York City. Rent is particularly affordable, with a one-bedroom apartment in the city center costing an average of just $600 per month. Of course, living costs will be even lower if you choose to live outside of the capital. Small towns and rural areas are much cheaper than major cities like Warsaw, and you'll likely find that your income goes further. What's more, there are lots of pros to living in Poland as an expat, from the friendly locals to the vibrant culture. On the downside, the weather can be a bit gray and cold in winter, and you may find it challenging to learn the Polish language. The country's infrastructure is not as developed as in other parts of Europe, and internet speeds can be slow outside of major cities. Additionally, the winters can be harsh, and daylight hours are limited. Finally, if the loss of abortion rights is a factor in your US escape, then you should avoid Poland at all costs. It has some of Europe's most restrictive abortion laws. Average monthly rent in Warsaw City Center, $639.79. Average real estate price, per square foot $386.57. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $38.54. Number 3. Hungary. Currency, HUF. If you're looking for a European country where your dollar will go further, Hungary should be high on your list. The cost of living here is relatively low, especially compared to Western European countries like the UK and France. For example, a meal for two at a mid-range restaurant in Hungary will only cost you around $40, while in the UK it would be closer to $30. Housing is also relatively affordable, with the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Budapest coming in at around $500 per month. Of course, there are some downsides to living in Hungary as well. The job market can be tight, particularly for foreigners who don't speak Hungarian fluently. But as a remote worker, you'll be insulated from that particular problem. And while Budapest is a lovely city, it can be quite expensive compared to the rest of the country. Overall, Hungary is a great option for remote workers who want to enjoy a high quality of life without breaking the bank. Average monthly rent in Budapest city center, $435.09. Average real estate price, per square foot $299.35. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $38.47. Number 2. Bulgaria. Currency, BGN. If you're looking for an affordable place to live and work remotely, Bulgaria should definitely be on your radar. Although it's not as well known as some other cheap countries in Europe, it has a lot to offer in terms of cost of living versus quality of life. Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, is one of the most affordable capitals in Europe. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the city center averages around $400 per month, and basic groceries are very inexpensive. Even if you splurge on restaurant meals or nights out, you'll still find your costs much lower than in other European countries, or in the US. Of course, you can save even more money by living outside of Sofia. Smaller towns and villages are cheaper than the capital, and you'll experience the traditional Bulgarian way of life. But keep in mind, your options for entertainment and nightlife will be more limited. Overall, Bulgaria is an excellent choice for those escaping the US and looking to maximize the value of their dollars. Average monthly rent in Sofia city center, $428.38. Average real estate price, per square foot $220.58. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $36.66. Number 1. Romania. Currency, RON. If you're looking for an affordable European country to base remote working operations, Romania should be at the top of your list. Despite being one of the cheapest countries in Europe, and the cheapest in the EU, Romania offers a high quality of life, with fast internet speeds and a low cost of living. You could easily live here on a US or UK salary. What's more, Romania is a great place to explore, with stunning castles, mountains, and churches all within easy reach. In recent years, Romania has become increasingly popular with digital nomads and expats, attracted by the low cost of living and fast internet. According to Numbeo, the cost of living in Romania is around 50% cheaper than in the US, and 30% cheaper than in the UK. This makes it an attractive option for anyone looking to stretch their dollar or pound further. What's more, Romania has some of the fastest internet speeds in Europe, making it ideal for working online. With all these factors combined, it's no wonder that more and more people are choosing to work remotely from Romania. Average monthly rent in Bucharest city center, $459.35. Average real estate price, per square foot $226.01. Three-course meal for two at mid-range restaurant, $41.47. So, which is your favorite countries among the top 10 cheapest countries to live in Europe 2024? Well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content of this video, click the subscribe button so you can receive more content like this. Post your favorite countries among the top 10 cheapest countries to live in Europe 2024 in the comments below. I'd love to read them and I'm sure others would too.